Hey, everybody. We are in week 3 of the Energy Bus. All right. And this week, and we're starting off on chapter 13. And this week, Melanie's going to be leading for us. So we'll see how far we get and how far everything goes, right? But yeah, so if you want to take it away, Melanie, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, Jenny, she can take it away on chapter 13. We love her reading.
Jay's like, wait a minute.
Wait. All right, you just stop me when you want to say something.
I'll give you a yell.
Okay. All right. That night while watching television, George acted on an inspired impulse to go grab his bag and pull out the energy book Marty had given him. As he looked through it, one section really caught his attention. It was about golf, a sport he loved to play but rarely had time for. The book talked about how after people play a round of golf, they usually don't think about all the bad shots they made, but rather always remember and focus on the one great shot they had that day. The thought and feelings they get when they're thinking about this shot makes them want to play again and again. This is why so many people get addicted to golf. The book then contrasted this with life and how people often go to bed thinking about all the things that went wrong, when instead they should apply the one great golf shot theory to their life and think about the one great thing that happened that day. The one great call, meeting, or sale, the one great conversation or interaction, the one great success that will inspire them to look forward to creating more success tomorrow. This, the book said, will inspire people to get addicted to life. Well, it worked because George was inspired. He had an idea, walked into his children's bedrooms and asked each one to tell them their success of the day. He explained that it could be something great that had happened to them that day or something they were proud of. The children lit up and smiled as they recalled their successes, and George knew this would be their new nightly ritual. Then he took a walk around the block with his dog and thought about his own success that day. His boss had come up to him and said, "There's something different about you, George. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." It's amazing how positive energy works, George thought. Whether you have it or don't, people notice. Later on that night, as he lay his head on the pillow, George thought about sharing the one great golf shot theory with his team, because if there was any group of people on the planet who needed to learn to focus more on the positive instead of the negative, it was they. It was Friday, and everyone loves Fridays. Today, George loved Friday more than ever. Today, he hopped onto bus 11 like a new man. "What's gotten into you, sugar?" Joy asked as she gave him a big smile. "I don't know. I guess it's the thank you walk I did on the way to the bus stop," George said. "I did one at work yesterday too, and a success walk last night. It really seems to work. I told you, George, there's nothing better than feeding the positive dog. But listen here, I've got something real important to tell you. Me and the team have been talking, and we've decided that we really want to help you succeed with this new light bulb you're introducing. So now that you've got the positive energy flowing, you're ready to share it with your team, which is a good thing, because if you want to have a successful product launch, you're going to need to get your team on your bus. So this is rule number 4, George. Show him, Danny." Danny pulled out rule number 4, which said, "Invite people on your bus and share your vision for the road ahead." "Remember, you are driving the bus, George," Joy said. "But as you drive, you want to keep asking people to get on. The worst they can say is no. If you don't ask, they won't know to get on. Plus, the more people you pick up along the way, the more energy you create during your ride. The goal is to eventually have a standing room only bus. And since this is an energy bus, it's always expanding, so you'll always be able to add more people. Now that you know this, George, it's important that you ask your team to get on your bus, or else you'll be driving the product launch by yourself. And you can't do this one alone. You need your team to make this work. Are you getting what I'm saying?" she asked. "Yes, I am," George answered as he thought of his team in disarray. He knew there was too much to do to launch it by himself, and he knew only an organized, energized team could deliver a successful product launch. But what he didn't know was how to make this happen. "What did you have in mind?" he asked. "Oh, we've got the ticket, George. We've got the ticket, literally," Joy said as she took a big swig from her water bottle. "Do you want me to explain it to him?" a petite woman with brown grayish hair asked politely as she sat upright in her seat. "Sure," answered Joy, "but first let me tell George who you are." Joy explained that Janice was a teacher at a local school, and she had been sharing the Energy Bus rules with her teachers and students for a while with great success. So much success that she launched a website, www.theenergybus.com, to share the rules with the world so everyone could benefit. Can you believe that, George? Joy exclaimed. We're global now, and Janice is bringing our message to people around the world. It's very exciting, Janice said timidly, joining the conversation. And because Joy explained how important it is for people to build their team with positive people who support them in their endeavors, I decided to add a feature on the website that allows someone like you and me to send an e-bus ticket via email to invite their friends, coworkers, bosses, family, or whomever to get on their bus. At the website, you can also print out tickets to personally hand to people if you want to invite them face to face. I'm going to stop for a second.
Okay.
And yeah, you can. There's tickets to email, there's tickets to print out, there's all the rules are listed.
That's fun. I was just thinking, I'm like, maybe I should mail tickets out to my team. That's literally what I was just, I'm like, that's kind of a cool idea.
It is.
It'd be cool to make them into a postcard.
Well, there's a bunch of different tickets. There's get on my bus. Do you want
Get off my bus?
Yeah, get off my bus. Get your own damn bus.
I wondered if anybody tried that. I was like, you know what? I need to do this. But yeah, I wondered if any of y'all had tried it.
Yeah, when you go to his website, up at the top where the menus are, there's a little thing that says bus tickets, and there's a whole list of them.
Wow, I didn't have time to go on that. But yeah. And I was also thinking about back when he was talking about his kids, I thought what a great memory that would be for you to make with your kids, talk about your successes, whether you do it at the kitchen table at night or bedtime or whatever. I was thinking, wouldn't that be cool? Because once they share it with their friends, and then, it's kind of like a ripple effect, I thought that was cool.
We do highs and lows. So when we sit down to dinner, we do highs and lows. Whatever, peaks, valleys, whatever. But they talk about the worst thing that happened that day and the best thing that happened that day. So that way it gets them to talking about crappy situations, and we can kind of rebuild them a little bit. And sometimes they'll say things that if I ask them, how was your day? They're like, it's good. And then at the dinner table, they're just like, I tripped down the stairs. And I'm like, that's significant. I'm like, okay.
Did that qualify under the it's good thing?
I'm like, was it a good trip? Did you fall at the feet of a girl that you like and she smiled at you? What happened there?
Yeah, you might want to let them know. So,
yeah.
And then another thing I thought was too about the impact that could have on people. Oh my word. It's like, the positive he was talking about, he had, find the silver lining. People notice when you're positive. They do. It's like, it's in your step and your pep. It's like in your eyes, and, feed that positive dog, like she says. If we wake up like that and we have that attitude when we wake up, it's like your whole day is going to go better. Like I heard from the doctor the other day, and I was like devastated at the news. And I was like freaking out. It's like my whole day after that just went downhill. It was like, it seemed like every little thing that could go wrong went wrong. And then the next day I woke up and I thought, I am not repeating yesterday. It's just not happening. So anyways, it seemed to go better the day after that. But anyways, yeah, so I think it's a good thing to get other people on board and other people positive, because he wants to be around negative people, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So the golf analogy, and for those of you that don't know, the reason my team's called Par Excellence, my dad used to own a golf shop and he made golf clubs. That was his second career. He was an engineer almost his whole life, but the last 10 years of his working life, he owned a golf shop. And so, yeah, that is spot on. And you know this, Melanie, because you and your husband play golf. Yeah, you do. You don't talk about, occasionally you might have something that was a really bad shot and it's almost amusing how bad it was. And you might talk about that. But for the most part, you do. You talk about like, Dad's like, oh, your drive off the second tee was amazing. Like I couldn't believe how far it went. And I didn't know you had it in you. Like I remember the conversations on the way home. And even that night when we would be cleaning our clubs after playing, we'd be sitting out on the back porch and he would be talking about the great shots that we had, and he'd be telling my mom. But it's true. I don't know what it is about that game, but you do. They talk about the amazing things that they did. And it's like, that makes complete sense. Like, why wouldn't you focus on your successes of that day. But we don't. We lay in bed and we're like, oh my gosh, I still can't believe I said that to that person. And I can't imagine what she's probably thinking about me. And like, you're just like, I wish I could take it back. I'm such an idiot. I'm such
Right.
if we just kind of like shift that and sometimes I'll catch now I can catch myself doing that. And I'm just like, okay, stop. Like, let it go. I'm sure she's not laying in bed thinking about the fact that I'm an idiot. Like, like she's not thinking that. She's probably not even given it a second thought since the words
Right.
came out of my mouth or whatever the issue was, and it's so powerful to be able to shift that. Just last night I was laying in bed and I was trying to sleep and I was like thinking about all the things that are weighing on me right now. And I was like, okay, there's literally nothing I can do about those things as I'm laying in bed. I need a good night's rest. That's what I need now more than anything. I need a good night's rest. Tomorrow I'll have a different, fresh perspective, And so, yeah, I just love that. And one of the things, it's amazing how positive energy works. Whether you have it or you don't, people notice. And that is so true. What a simple statement, but you do. You notice it when you start to be, a very positive person for the most part. You can walk up to somebody. Sometimes you can look across the room and see the negative energy on somebody and you're like, whoa, like, well, I don't know what's going on with her today, but I need to take a deep breath and put a big smile on my face.
Yeah, the whole room, the atmosphere changes. It's like, what just happened?
I know.
In the mood or what?
Exactly. So it is. So it's powerful when you are in tune with that because you can really use it to your advantage.
Well, that's like the list that we get of people that are inactive or that we can recall. And I go through the list and I'm like, yeah, no.
It was a blessing when she left. No,
it wasn't fun the first time. And wait, I don't even think I text her and said you're going to go inactive. I just let it roll.
Let it happen. I know, it's so true. But
Fishermen
I like
the same way.
Yeah,
that fishermen do the same thing. They either tell you about the biggest fish they ever caught, but even if they have a crappy day fishing, they tell you about all the stuff they almost got. They never say, it's like,
that's funny.
Yes, that's so true. So true.
That's
Okay.
funny. Well, I think this is interesting. I think maybe we could put our heads together and think about what we could do to kind of get some of the people on our bus, and so I was just talking with somebody, and I can't even remember now who it was. I've talked to so many people in the last 2 weeks. For somebody who doesn't even like talking on the phone, I've talked to a lot of people. And so I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking about how fun it is right now. Oh, it may have been you, Jenny. I was talking about how fun it is, when your team is engaged. Like Jenny's team's crazy engaged right now. They're so into her. Like she could be like, hey, does anybody want to win a used tissue? They're like, yes, I'm in. I want your used tissue. Like, I mean, seriously, they are in love with Jenny right now. Like they're so into anything she's doing. And I'm like, it's so like, it's such a fun place to be in your business when your team gets you and they're like, and you're getting them. And so you know how to talk to them in a way that like gets them excited and stuff. And that's the magic that she has going on right now on her team. But that's it right there, getting people on this positivity journey with us. And then they want to engage in the business because they're just like, oh, this is kind of fun. And this kind of makes me happy. And this makes me feel good. And, so I want to go there and I want to do more. I know when I'm excited about a project or training or book or something like that, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I can't wait to go in my office and do this, like work on this, think about this, journal about this,
We started out with stupid stuff like the sweatshirt for the dog, right?
Right.
Which was amusing. But, and I've been doing like $50 surprise bags and stuff like that. But most of the time I don't even tell them what I just say like Happy Mail or a gift from me or something like that, because I don't like to commit, because sometimes like the one girl, whenever she won, she's got a little girl. So I sent her stuff in her box that her little girl would like, that we don't have right now, like the baking set and all that stuff. So she was all excited. Well, last night I got a message from one of the girls on my team, and she was like, she goes, you do so good giving out those boxes and sending stuff, and it's so much fun to work for. She goes, but do you think everybody could get behind, she goes, if we reached a certain level, can we donate that box to somebody else? And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, yes. And we will start that Thursday morning. I will figure something out. And so that's going to be next month, is like maybe donating stuff to kids going back to school, or, you know, if you do this by this time, instead of you getting the $50 box, you tell me who to send it to.
You know what's kind of cool?
Yeah.
So this reminds me of that, Jenny. So at Eric's work, they do, I don't know what they're called. They're called something goofy, but it's like shout outs basically. And so they badge somebody. And so when they badge somebody, it's a team member saying something like, hey, Eric helped me out last week. I was really underwater and he ended up, you know, doing this, this, and this for me. And so they it's a big deal. Like it's a big like compliment to have one of your peers do that for you. So what about like, if you're trying to create like this positive atmosphere on your team, right? What about a challenge where when you win it, you give it away? Like you give it to another team member that you see working, that you see having a good, kind of like, you know, we do the thankful thing and we can't do somebody upline from us or downline from us and things like that, you know? And so it's like, that's kind of a fun idea. And maybe not for next month, but maybe even just for the month of November, think about like gratitude and be like, okay, anybody who earns this, you get to surprise somebody on the team. You get to give it away, you know, and that person who earned it gets a gift, but they also get to give it away. So maybe it's like, I don't know. There's a fun idea there, Jenny. That's really cool. You're still muted, babe.
Sorry, I got a phone call, decided to mute.
Oh,
Something else happened. Thinking about something. Shoot.
I'm talking about paying it forward and
Oh, the pay it forward thing. Yeah, I just think that, and I love the team thing because, you know, it could be, but I had it, like one of the big jokes on our team is when somebody will say, well, if I do $1,000 party, what do I get? And I'll say $250.
I know, right?
everywhere.
That you did your job.
Yeah.
And a slow clap from me.
Give them a round of applause.
All right.
But I mean, and I guess that's part of the thing about like the people on my team is they don't expect a lot because that's, I'm not majorly big on recognition. I mean, you know, I like for somebody to say, hey, you did a good job, but I don't, and I'm real horrible about competition. And that because I had Katja and Melissa were like, so should we do a competition of who got, I said, no, why would you do that? And they were like, well, I said, Katja has like twice as many people on her team as you do. You guys are just getting started. I said, we don't want them to feel like they've lost before they even get started. I said, so let's just do, if you guys get here, that's awesome. And if she gets here, that's awesome. And if everybody gets to where we're going, it's double awesome. So yeah, it's, but they're fun and they are enjoying themselves. And I did do something that I usually don't do. And that was put out all the things that they're working for this month. And Ellen, are you frozen? Because these are just like in wrestling.
Must been, yeah. Yeah.
Like, she's not liking what I am saying at all. Maybe I should just shut up.
Yeah. No, she was frozen. She probably got off and getting back on.
Yeah, she said she might have to get off early, so I don't know. It was, yeah, she's
early or what? Yeah, okay.
I was like, uh-oh. But yeah, I don't know. They're just having fun, and I'm more engaged than I ever have been. So it's not all them. It's a lot of it's been my fault for the last few years. So.
Well, see, I think just like the energy bus that says, you know, once we get engaged, it's like a snowball effect in other people. So that could be what's going on with your team, you know, as my team as well. It's like once we get on the bandwagon and we keep going and going, then, or the energy bus, then there we go. You know, you get other people on board, other people want to join, other people want to be positive. I think people want to be positive, but sometimes they're just such in a rut that they just, how do I get out of this ditch? How do I, you know, which is why I love this book. So,
And the people they're around too, you know, if
mhm.
people they're around are negative, it takes a whole lot to get away from that. And, you know, and sometimes something really positive can happen in your life. And the people around you are like, oh yeah, but what about this? What about
Right.
this? What? And I'm just like, can you give me 30 seconds of that was exciting? You know, like,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So what
Mm.
else you got? Anything else?
Oh,
All
no.
right. Continue on.
All right. Let's see. So if you invite them face to face. Isn't that fantastic, George? Joyce said to him as he gave a big thumbs up to Janice. Janice spoke up again. And I almost forgot. We also made it possible for you to write a message that is emailed along with your e-bus ticket explaining your vision and goal. So when you send your e-bus tickets to your team, George, you can say, this is my vision for our team and our product launch, and this is where my bus is going, and I want to invite you to get on. We do this often at school when we're starting new initiatives, and the principal sends an e-bus ticket to all the teachers inviting them to get on her bus. It's a lot of fun, but more importantly, it works. That's what I'm talking about, Joyce said, more excited than ever. There's no better way to get people on your bus than telling them where you're going and asking them to get on. But remember, George, you must share your vision with them. You must make it clear that you expect the launch to be like and how you expect the team to work together, with no infighting and no egos getting in the way. And tell them how you expect everyone to come together for the collective good of delivering a stellar performance. If you don't clearly communicate your vision of the road ahead, no one will want to travel with you. Joy then advised George on a plan of action. She had been through this drill before, and it had worked wonders with everyone who had ever come on her bus. It even worked before they had a fancy website and had to make tickets by hand. But they were equipped, and now George would be too. She told him how he should email an e-bus ticket without a message to his boss and his team at work. That would get them curious, she told him. Then she took him step by step and explained how to meet individually with each person, share his vision for the product launch, and give each person a paper bus ticket printed from www.theenergybus.com. Then she advised him to conclude with, now that you know where my bus is going and you're clear about my vision for the road ahead, if you're ready to get on my bus, then return the ticket with your name on it to my office by Monday morning at 9 a.m. George was looking forward to making this happen. Timing couldn't be better since the launch of the Energy 2000 was a week from today, and on Monday he would know who was on the bus and who wasn't. Plus, the weekend would give everyone time to prepare for the upcoming big week. The energy is shifting, he thought. Oh, and one more thing, Joyce said as the bus reached George's office building. Make sure you do a separate e-bus ticket for your wife, too. Tell her your vision for yourself, your marriage, and your family. She needs to know where you want to go, George. Don't forget that. I won't, George replied. I'll do just that. For the first time, he was thankful that his car had a flat tire. Maybe everything does happen for a reason, he thought. Maybe for the first time in a long while, luck is smiling on me, and maybe just maybe this means my luck and situation is about to change.
It's like, hurry up and wait.
I like the thing about just sending the ticket to everybody and not saying anything, just inviting them on the bus and letting them wonder for a minute.
I wonder. It's like, what's this for? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I would probably put my vision on the back, or, you know, what it is that I think we should stand for or whatever, but what my bus stands for. But, you know, I don't know. I think it's a team effort, and yeah. And it's almost like if you get one thing going, you got to have it all going. You can't just, you know, like recruiting. It's like if you focus on recruiting, you know, that's great. But if you leave them, if you don't follow up, then they're left behind or whatever. So it's like you got to get one wheel going, then you got to get the other one going, and the other one going. You know, as a team, it all works together. So
yeah. I just think this could be a cool theme for August with the whole back to school thing. Getting on the bus.
Yeah.
Even if your kids aren't going to get on a bus, you can get on the bus.
Yeah. On a bus.
If they
Yeah.
put the kids on the bus, you get on the bus.
Right. They may not be getting on the bus. Our school system hasn't even decided what they're doing. So that's a whole other story. But yeah.
Okay, chapter 15, kids. While George was pacing around his bedroom, he noticed the Time magazine sitting on the nightstand with Abraham Lincoln on the cover. George was fascinated with life and the presidency of Abraham Lincoln. He marveled that this man, who was said to suffer from depression, was able to overcome several election defeats, 2 bankruptcies, a nervous breakdown, the death of his fiancée before becoming president of the United States. A seeming failure at the age of 51, he had summoned the courage and strength that unified our country and changed the course of history. George couldn't help but imagine what it must have been like in the past for Lincoln to wait and wait and wait for the Civil War battle reports to come in, not knowing if his country was one step closer to unification or destruction. Yet now, as George spent time with his family and did chores around the house, he had a small sense of what it was like to wait and have your fate unfold before you. As time inched slowly by, he continually wondered who was going to be on his bus and who would stay off it. He wondered if he had the strength and courage to overcome his own small civil war at work. And he wondered if he was headed towards victory or defeat. He had handed out the bus tickets on Friday, and he felt great about his meetings, but Monday would be the telling point. He walked over to his bookshelf, pulled out his favorite Abraham Lincoln book, and randomly flipped through it, only to find a quote that jumped out at him and would bring him a newfound resolve. I am not bound to win, I am bound to be true. I am not bound to succeed, but I am bound to go live up to the light that I have.
I think that's good.
Yeah, do too.
I really do. I think that he's saying, like, you know what, you can't control other people, nor should you want to control other people, but some things are like beyond your own control, so you have to kind of go with it because you can't control other people. But at the same time, you know, you want everyone to succeed on a certain goal. You want everyone to succeed as individuals, you know. So I think I liked it. I like it as a good quote.
But, well, some of that, it reminds me of you, Ellen, because the thing about I'm not bound to win, but I'm bound to be true, because you always talk about your core values. And as long as you stay true to your core values, everything seems to work around it and get to where it's going. And I just think that's really important, that once you know what you stand for, you have to, even whenever something comes up and you think, well, I could slough that off a little bit and do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And if you do it, that's when you lay at bed at night and think, that was not bright. So, yeah.
Well, thanks. That's a big compliment. I tried to do that, but I don't know if anybody notices, but apparently you do. But that's important. But that goes back to just kind of knowing yourself and knowing what your core values are. And there's that old saying that, you know, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. Right. And so it's important to know what your core values are. And an easy way to figure out what your core values are is think about what makes you the most mad. And that is one of your core values, or those are some of your core values. And that's an easy way to figure it out. Like, so some people, one of their core values is honesty. So they get really worked off when people lie to them. They're just like, oh, she's a liar. I can't stand it. Why do people lie? You know, lying bothers me, but it's not actually one of my core values. Like sometimes I feel like, I'm not saying there's an excuse for lying, but sometimes people have a reason for not telling the entire truth, and I just kind of accept that in people. But one of my core values is integrity, and I do lay awake at night if I said I would do something and I don't seem to follow through on it. So, and when you're not in line with your core values, you're fighting yourself, and so you feel off kilter, and that's when you start beating yourself up. That's when your self-esteem starts to take a nosedive, because you're not in line with your core values. And when you're not acting in those core values, then you start to have that self-doubt in yourself. Like, who am I? If I'm not, you know, standing up for the things I believe in, who am I? And so it's really important to even just know a couple of them. And then as time goes on, more kind of get revealed. And once you know what your core values are and you know how to identify them in yourself, you can start seeing them in other people. So in my coaching calls, a lot of times I'll make notes of like, I think that's one of her core values, because she's getting all worked up about something, you know, and it's like, interesting. And then it just kind of gives you an insight and a way to be able to like work with people some more. But yeah.
Okay.
I think mommy's talking to Jenny.
I think
or there's a ghost in the room. I don't know which. There's a ghost. Tell Michael I said hi.
I want to say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Yup. Oh, well, she was like,
Okay.
yes, here we are. Corvallis. Oh, my grandmother used to tell me all the time when I would get really mad about something, she'd go, the reason that makes you so mad is because you see yourself in it. And she goes, if you do that, it makes you mad at yourself. So when somebody else does it, it makes you mad at them. And
That's a perfect example. Your
Oh.
grandma was really wise. There's been a couple things you've said recently that I'm like, your
It was my
grandma was a very wise woman.
She was just literally, she grew up in the hills of West Virginia. She got married at 12 years old. Yeah, because they had too many kids and they couldn't afford to feed her. So they married her to my
Wow.
grandfather. He was 21, she was 12. She had stillborn twins when she was 14, and then she had 3 other kids afterwards. He would go to work because he worked in the mine. He worked in the coal mine. He would go to work and lock her in the house so she didn't go outside and play with her friends. She would clean. Yeah.
What? And
And they were married for 70 some odd years. And yeah, but I mean, as they got older, they got along a lot better, I'm assuming. But yeah, she used to just say, like,
crazy.
my family did some of the stupidest stuff. I mean, like between her kids and my cousins and everything else, we got in some of the biggest messes in the world. And I said to her I said, how do you stand it? I said, because everybody would call her and they'd be like, oh, Nanny, what am I going to do now? Blah, 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 blah. And she'd go, I answer the phone. I tell people what I think they need to hear. She goes, and then I go sit in my rocking chair on the porch and I just rock and tap my foot and tell God it's all yours. She goes, because there's nothing I can do with the bunch of you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that, I'd call her sometimes and I'd go, Nanny, what do I do? She goes, got a rocking chair, go tap your foot.
Oh,
Oh my God.
She was fun. Okay, chapter 16. Excuse me. It was Monday, and this Monday was very different from last Monday. Instead of dread, George felt a nervous excitement. He had taken an earlier bus to work today so he could be in his office in time to receive the bus tickets from his new passengers. He greeted each person as they walked, one by one, into his office, handed their ticket to him, and told him they were on his bus. All of them except Michael, Jamie, and Jose. Excuse me, just.
all right, I'll keep reading. The 3 of them, just make sure it wasn't muted as I start reading. Read the whole chapter. So the 3 of them walked in together, and immediately George knew something was up. He could tell they were nervous and that they weren't holding bus tickets. I bet they're too scared to come in alone, so they decided to pack together like a bunch of wolves, he thought. We think your bus is going to crash, and we don't want to be on it when it does, Michael bluntly told him. We need this job, Jamie said nervously. Who's we? All of us. All of us, they said in unison as they looked around at each other. Your bus is going to go up in flames, Michael said. The words hit George like a dagger in the heart. Michael and Jamie always had given him problems, and he expected they wouldn't get on his bus. But Jose was a big surprise. Jose had always worked hard for him, and the biggest surprise of all was Jose chose to stay off the bus while Larry and Tom, the 2 biggest problems of all, handed in their tickets and decided to get on. As the 3 wolves stood there, George didn't know what else to say. He was in shock. Sure, he had contemplated that there might be some people who wouldn't get on his bus, but he never thought that he would do it he never thought what he would do if this actually happened. Now it was staring him right in the face, and he felt lost. Thank you, is all George said as they walked out of his office, and he slumped in his chair. Thinking about his team dynamics, he felt more hopeless than ever. 2 people he thought would surely stay off his bus wanted to be on it, and the person he thought would be the first passenger to say no. And the one person he had thought would be his first passenger said no. Needless to say, the day did not go well. Larry and Tom continued causing problems by fighting with each other and the rest of the team. They complained about everything and bashed other people's ideas while offering no solutions of their own. George tried to get everyone on the same page, but he was severely distracted by the three wolves who did not want to get on his bus. He didn't know what he should do with them, so he let them sit there passively at the meeting as they let everyone else know how they felt by rolling their condescending eyes at each other. The energy felt horrible, and so did George. They had 4 days until the launch, and his bus was stalled.
Yeah, here's what I was thinking about that. As I was thinking about my team and different things that's went on in the past, what's going on now, and I'm like, okay, am I, who I think might stay on the bus, who might get off the bus, all that, So I'm thinking, would I be prejudging by thinking who would get on the bus or, whatever, or is that like I'm preparing myself for a possible outcome? I was like, well, I don't know. So, it's like, what would I do? So I don't know.
I think it's more of preparing, because I mean, if you're prejudging, you wouldn't even give them tickets, right? And so
Right.
you're still opening it to everybody. And one of the things I tell brand new consultants when I'm working with them is I tell them, I'm just like, listen, here's the deal. I said, you are going to have a friend that you think absolutely is going to drop everything to support you in this business and host a party, and she's going to say no way. And you're going to have somebody that you thought would not like help you if their life depended on it, and they're going to say, oh my gosh, yeah, I totally do a party for you. And you're going to be like, what just happened? And I'm like, but it happens. So if that person says no to you that you thought for sure was going to say yes, don't worry about it. Keep going, because they might say yes later when they see that you're actually serious about this, or they realize that they actually want something that you have. And so it's the same sort of thing with our teams. There are going to be people that you think for sure are going to be in your corner, and they're going to be like, you're crazy and I'm not buying into it. And then there are people that you think have one foot out the door and they're trying to drag everybody with them. And they're going to be like, yes, I do. I want to be a part of this, because they want to change, So I don't think that's prejudging, Melanie.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, I know just like in life in general, it's like you prepare yourself for whatever. I tend to and I don't think it's a negative thing. I prepare myself for the worst, and that way I'm ready for it. And hopefully everything will be better than the worst. So it's like with this health issue I'm going on now, it's like, okay, I went through the weekend, I had my, little pity party and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, now it's Monday, we're going to wake up, we're going to hit it in the head. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. That's where I am. It's just like I give myself what I call my little 15 minutes of pity party. This time it lasted a little longer than 15 minutes, but that's okay. And then now I'm ready. It's just like, I don't know, I have to go through that. And it's like with the team too. It's like, okay, we'll give you your little time of, oh, I shoulda, woulda, couldas, last month, or whatever. But I think, ultimately the goal's still there. It hasn't went anywhere. So, we do need to strive for that, and it's like, okay, what can we learn from what we didn't, shoulda, woulda, couldas, and let's continue on with the next month. You know what I'm saying? So I think it helps to be, positive and talk about possible outcomes. And obviously we want the positive outcomes, but, it is reality. So it is a business.
Well, and I think, like, especially with your team or as leaders or anything else, you almost have to go to those negative spots first yourself, so that when they come up, you actually have something to say. Because if you're all like, oh, this is fantastic and everything's wonderful and blah, 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 and then something goes wrong for somebody, and you're just like, and I have been on both ends of that. And when somebody calls you and says, oh my God, we're going to be like $500 short and I don't have it and we can't get it. If all you can say is, oh, well, don't you worry. Wait, you have to be realistic for them, because they need like 30 seconds of, hey, look, there was probably something we could have done week 2, but obviously we didn't do it. The good part is, you've gotten stronger this month, so next month should not be a problem. I mean, but you have to go through that in your mind first, so that it doesn't catch you completely off guard and you're like, yeah, this sucks.
Right. Right. I'm glad I'm like that though. I'm glad that I look at the worst first, and then that way, okay, got that out of the way. Now let's settle in on, the rest. Yeah. So, it's okay. So, you ready to go?
Where we at? 17?
I think,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think handing out those tickets sometimes, we don't always hand them out to everybody when we're looking for recruits or parties. And if you know what I'm saying, it's like and that is kind of prejudging in my mind, because we're not giving them the opportunity to say yes or no. You know what I mean? But if you look at it like handing them a ticket, I have to work on that. Come up with something to hand, like for dating parties or recruiting when you're out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be good.
It'd be fun. People would think you were crazy, but it would be fun. Yeah.
Hey, you want to get on my
Exactly.
bus?
I have a white van. You want some candy, little girl? Just kidding.
No windows.
Yeah, we ain't going there.
Oh.
I'm going to read. Okay. Tuesday morning, George walked on the bus with no life and certainly no kick in his step. He felt like a failure and was embarrassed to face the people who were trying so hard to help him succeed. Joy read his energy immediately and knew things had not gone well for him at work. This was her day off and the day she usually visited her father, but she had a feeling George would need her today and wanted to be on the bus to share some energy and lift him up if he needed it. Now as she looked at George, she was sure glad she had followed her hunch. It wasn't the first time she had seen this look of defeat. In fact, most people she recalled had setbacks as they learned how to drive their bus. Every person and every team will be tested on their journey. It was part of the curriculum of life. She knew this all too well. It's just like riding a bicycle, she thought. In the beginning, you're going to fall off and get knocked down, but the important thing is to get back on, stay strong, and after a while, once you master it, you'll ride with the confidence of a champion. She just had to help George take the wheel, and quick, because he was running out of time. What's the matter, sugar, she asked. Where's the George who sprung on my bus on Friday? He's been knocked down by 2 left jabs and a right hook, answered George. Well, it's time to get back up, Joy exclaimed. Life is always going to knock you down. The important thing is you've got to get back up. Haven't you seen the movie Rocky, she asked? Her words piqued his interest. He had always loved the original Rocky movie and had even written his college essay about the movie and a person overcoming their demons and challenges to become someone of worth and value. Of course I have. Who hasn't? He said. But that's a movie, he said skeptically. And this is life, George, and I'm telling you to get back up, she said sternly. But I failed, he said. You haven't failed until you stop trying, George. Now pick that sorry head of yours up, sit up straight, and let's talk about how to build some mental and emotional muscle and get your bus rolling. Joy asked George what had happened that got him so down, and he explained the situation and team dynamics to her. He cursed his 2 biggest problems, Larry and Tom, and the 3 wolves who had sabotaged him all day. They're not the problem, Joy said to his surprise. What's the problem then? George asked, feeling annoyed. Negativity itself, she said. You see, there'll always be negativity everywhere and in everything you do. You will always be surrounded by negative people. It's not these people, so to speak, it's the negativity they represent. They are just one of many you will come across. Marty stood up and shouted from the back with more of his beautiful research. And the Gallup poll estimates that there are 22 million negative workers in the United States, costing around $300 billion in productivity every year. And this negativity not only kills productivity in companies, George, it also kills people. Self-doubt, fear, hopelessness, and negative energy drain you and sabotage everything you want in life and all the success you desire, Joy added. So the same negativity these people represent is also inside you. That's why you've got to feed the positive dog, George. But I had these negative people on my bus and a few other negative people who didn't want to get on my bus. Are you saying I'm the problem and that they're not the problem, George asked. Listen, George, you're too close to the problem to see it. The problem is you're taking it too personal. Step back for a moment. Don't focus on these people personally. Forget they even have names. Don't think of it as you versus them. Just realize that they represent the negativity that will always be around you. The important thing is to know how to deal with the negativity and what to do with it. So let's first deal with the negative people who didn't get on your bus. Show him rule number 5, Danny. Danny lifted up the sign which said, rule number 5, don't waste your energy on those who don't get on your bus. It's simple, my man. Some people are going to get on your bus and some people won't. Don't worry about the people who don't get on the bus. Don't waste your energy on them. Don't try to make them get on. You can't drive anyone else's bus. You can only drive your bus. I know what you mean, George said. I tried to drive my wife's bus for years, and I quickly learned that she doesn't like it when I try to drive her bus. The passengers on the bus chuckled as Joy continued sharing her energy gospel. That's right, George. Everyone has to make their own choices, and you have to make yours. And certainly don't spend your energy being upset that these people didn't get on your bus. Don't take it personal. Maybe they are meant to get on another bus. Maybe if they got on your bus, they would ruin your ride. George knew this would definitely be the case. Plus, the more energy you spend worrying about the people who didn't get on the bus, the less you have for the people who are on your bus. And if you're worrying about the people who didn't get on your bus, you won't have the energy to keep on asking new people to get on. Salespeople know this real well, George. If they get caught up in rejection, they lose the energy to go after new customers and ask new people to get on their bus. So for the people who don't get on your bus, just let them sit at the station and as you drive on by. George now realized the grave mistake he had made. He had spent so much time thinking about the three wolves that he had completely ignored the people who wanted to be on his bus. He had been so tired and drained that he had no energy to move the bus forward. But what about the people who get on your bus but are really negative? George asked as he thought of Tom and Larry. The mere thought of them sent shivers down his spine. George would have an answer for them as well, and the solution didn't require weapons or garlic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The big thing is don't take it personal. Oh my gosh. I had a, what is it? Energy vampire she talks about later. But I had somebody really, really negative on the team. And it was like, she would walk in, you could feel the room. It would be like ice. And then, she would disrupt the meetings and it was crazy. And I really didn't know how to handle it. And it was like, I was spending so much time trying to figure out how to deal with her. I kind of let other things slip through my fingers. And it was like, you got to stop. This can't happen. So anywho, yeah, we always have negative and positive. I mean, it's just the way of life. There's always going to be the yin and yang and positive and negative and all that. But, it's like, how do we deal with it? How do we go about and feed the positive dog and get the right people on our energy bus? In our business, we can't fire anybody. It might be sometimes, but we can't fire anybody. So it's like, well, how do I deal with that person? How do I, so I had to learn the hard way how to deal with this person. And, it's like, I think one thing was, I tried not to take it personal. It is what it is. She's the way she is. There's nothing I can do about it. So I have to realize how I handle the situation because I can control me, right? So it was like, you know what, we're not having this. We had a little chit chat, several little chit chats, but it's like, okay, I got to stop. I've told her this is it. Finally, we're done, and I'm not spending any more time because I'm going to focus on people who want it. And years ago, I had learned that everybody on her team is either an A, a B, or a C. And it's like, I've never forgot that. So it's like, you have the ones who want it all, those are your A's and everyone's doing, and then the B's are some timers. And then the C's are just kind of there. Once in a while, they may have, $100 in sales, and yay, that's the gravy on the taters. But, it's just like, yeah, we got to spend time where we're needed instead of not spend time where, on the negative. Yeah, no. Any other thoughts on that?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay. No energy vampires on the bus. You asked about the negative people, and I'm going to be straight up with you, George. The rule is not for the faint of heart. It's not easy to deal with the negativity in the world, but it's something that's got to be done. Your success in life are so important that you must surround yourself with a positive support team. No one creates success in a vacuum, and the people we surround ourselves with have a big influence on the life and success we create. If you want to be successful, you have to be very careful about who is on your bus. After all, there are people who increase your energy, and there are people who drain your energy. I call the people who drain your energy vampires, and they will suck the life out of you and your goals and vision if you let them. They will cause an engine leak, make your ride miserable, or even worse, slash your tires. But remember, George, don't take it personal. They're just part of the negativity that exists in the world. Your job is to do your best to eliminate any negativity on your bus, and this includes negative people, no matter who they are. This is rule number 6, and it's big time. Show him, Danny. Rule number 6, post a sign that says no energy vampires allowed on your bus. You've got to be strong enough to tell people that you will not allow any negativity on your bus. You've got to say, this is where we're going, and to get there, we need a positive and supportive team, and whoever is negative will be kicked off the bus or left at the station. As Joy spoke, George envisioned Larry, Tom, Michael, Jose, and Jamie all sitting at the bus station as his bus drove off, and he had to admit it felt very good. But could he really kick people off his bus? What about these wolves? He couldn't possibly banish them, could he? Before he could ask, Joy said, those 2 energy vampires, Tom and Larry, you need to have a meeting with them first thing today and say, look, I don't allow any negativity on my bus. If you're not going to be positive and contribute to our vision, then you're off the bus and you'll have to look for another job. That's tough, George said. I know it is, sugar, but sometimes it's what's got to be done. You give people a chance to change, and if they don't get it, then you kick them off the bus, or else they'll ruin your ride. What about the 3 wolves who chose to stay off my bus in the first place, asked George. What do I do with them? Meet with them too, Joy answered. Tell each one that they have one more opportunity to get on the bus. If they don't accept your invitation, then make them sit at their desk by themselves while you and your team have your meetings. Time out. Don't include them in anything. After the product launch, you can figure out a future plan of action with your human resource folks. George liked what he had heard, and he was ready to take action. He felt equipped with the tools to handle the energy vampires and unite his team to succeed. He wondered, however, why he had never learned any of this in his management training classes. They teach all these policies and procedures, he thought, but they never help us deal with real people and real problems.
Yeah, that's so true. I know my husband, he works at a coal generated power plant, and he's in management. He's an engineer, and he has to have all these meetings and classes and all this stuff, and which he hates. He'd rather be out with the men doing their whatever. But anyways, when he goes in these classes, he says they're like a joke, because it's like they don't teach you how to deal with people. It's just like George. It reminded me so much of him. And he had to have, they gave him a book to read. I don't even know what book it was. I never heard of the author, never. But he was like, I don't read. He doesn't like to read. So he's like, you read this and tell me what it says. So I ended up reading this book, and I'm like, that's the most boringest book I've ever read in my life, I think. But I say, here's the points, here's the high points. Just look at the name of the chapter and go on with that. But anyways, it did have some points in it about how to deal with people, and it was just like very bluntly, it's like you talk to them. If they don't agree with what our company has, then you get rid of them. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty blunt. But then when I dealt with my person that I had to deal with, it was just like, time and time again, I would have a chit chat with her. So finally I was like, I'm pretty easygoing personality wise, but there comes a time when you push me too hard, I'll let you know. And sometimes I have to hold my tongue, because you have to be nice in Tupperware, right? You can't say what you want sometimes.
Yeah.
So anyways,
I
thought, I'm just going to tell her, because I'm at my rope's end. So I just went to her and I said, you know what, look, this is how it is. This is what we're going to do. If this is not what you want, then, you're just not being included. Sorry. And she's like, you can't do that. I'm calling Tupperware. And I'm like, go ahead. Don't care. It was just like crazy stuff. But once she realized I was going to stand on my own 2 feet and I was going to stick to my guns, then it was like, poof, it's gone. So anyways, you go on your merry way, we'll go on our merry way, and all is good, so it is what it is. But I think the big thing is, people try to infiltrate your camp, kind of, way to speak, because it's like, I don't want you to be positive. I'm a negative person, and I don't like life, and life's terrible to me. So I want everyone around me to be unhappy, and it was like, I am not going to stand for that, because I have worked hard on being a positive person. I came out of a divorce that was blah, 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 it was another lifetime. And it's like, my self-esteem was so low. So it's like, I have worked so hard, and it's like, you're not going to mess this up, I have my days. We all have our days when we're negative, but, it was just like, no, not happening. So, I was kind of proud of myself for the way, and our team has bounced back from all of that negativity, So I'm really proud of, and then when I seen this in this book, it was like, yeah, it was okay that I did what I did. It's like I got permission when I finally read this book. So
No, sometimes you do. You have to kind of, you train people how to treat you. And so our team members, sometimes you do have to be a little bit forceful. I mean, there was somebody that I had to do a similar thing with, and I told him, I was like, listen, hey, this is not how my friends treat me. And I'm not doing this anymore. Like, and I'm like, if you consider yourself one of my friends, then you're going to treat me accordingly. And it was like, and I never thought like I would have the courage to be able to say that point blank to somebody. And they were like, oh, okay. Like, and they straightened right up. And I was just like, okay, well, I should have done that a long time ago, but I mean, it's one of those things that, it's difficult when you have somebody that's on your team and it never fails. They come to everything. They come to every meeting. They sit there, they make it awkward. And you're just like, why are you here? And like, it's just, but it is, it is what it is. But what I have found in all the years of working with all the women that we work with, right? And I find this at Champion as a whole, that when somebody comes in and they bring drama, they don't last very long. They really don't, because nobody really buys into it. Like, and so dramatic people and negative people, they, misery loves company. And so if they're not getting it back, they eventually fizzle out and they move on. So Gina said they come because they need our positivity and they don't even realize it. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, opposites attract. I agree with that too. But yeah, and so it is. And I love that Champion has that vibe. Like, hey, we don't do drama here. We don't have to post a sign. Like, it just is the way it is. I mean, and all the directors, a lot of times, if somebody comes to us and is trying to stir up drama with their director, right? We're just like, hey, I'm gonna stop you right there. That's not how this works, and it's just, and I love that. I have a tendency, I'll hear somebody out and then I'm just kind of like, well, and then I'll always defend the director, even if I don't agree with whatever's going on and I see what's going on, I see both sides and I don't agree with the way the director's saying, I'm still going to defend the director. I mean, just like I defend my sister. Even when I don't like my sister, I defend my sister.
When the kids come and go, he's doing this and it's not right. You don't
Right.
throw your husband under the bus. You're like, hey, that's your dad and this is what we're doing. And then you go to him in another room and go,
What the heck? Why are you doing this, man? Yeah, I know. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great analogy for all of us that have been in marriages and children are involved. That's a great analogy. That's exactly what we do. And so that's what we do as directors. And I love that we do that Champion wide. And I think that helps. So that's the reason why we don't have a lot of drama going on. Every now and again, some little sparks come up, but they fizzle out because we don't feed them.
And I think some of the most challenging things on my team have been family and friends that have known me a long time. Like my kids have always known me, kind of thing, right? And I have friends that not even really friends, but people I have known for 20, 30 years. And things will come up and I'll say something and they'll go, so when did you get to be so positive and so this and so that? And I'm like, I know, isn't it cool that you can change like that? Feel free.
And it was a big thing for you, Jenny, because the majority of the base of her team was everybody that had known her for a long time, like 20 plus years. And so, like, because it was neighbors and it was friends and family, and she still has a little bit of family, but a lot of those people didn't really jump on her bus and so her positivity bus, and they've worked their way out.
They jumped on the bus I was driving at the time.
They did. They did. And now they've since removed themselves. Not totally, but I mean, but seriously, they haven't, and they recognize like, oh, well, she's different and this isn't going to fly. So
and some of them like it and some of them don't. They blame it on moving to the city, which I love intensely. Yeah.
Moved to the big city of Brunswick.
Yeah, since you moved, your whole attitude's changed. And I'm like, yes, thank God. Had I known that, would have moved years ago.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, I've got people saying, you're just kind of sickening. You're so positive. And I'm like, yay, thank you.
I know people say that. I mean, and it's just like, and when you're dealing with, when you have a lot of exposure to people outside of Tupperware, outside of our Tupperware bubble. It was funny. I was talking to Lori this morning and she said one of her neighbors was like, we haven't done any driveway drinking and we haven't done this in so long. And Lori's like, I hadn't even noticed. She's like, because I've been in my Tupperware bubble and I've been talking to all my Tupperware friends and I wasn't even noticing that I was like missing like this other element of my life. She's like, because I'm so fulfilled by everything I've got going on in Tupperware. And I'm like, I love that, I mean, but it is when you have a lot of interactions outside of the bubble, you do. I sit back and I just kind of bite my tongue and I just listen to all the and especially right now, everybody's got an opinion about masks and schools and teachers and social distancing and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I just can't, I'm just kind of like sitting back, letting it play out. And then in the end, if I feel like I need to make a decision, there are two people out of all the parents at the school, there are two people that I actually value their opinion. So those are the two people I'm going to talk to. One of them I'm going to talk to, but the rest of them, they just want to be up in arms about it, but that's not going to change the situation.
Right.
It's just going to make you
Let
miserable.
it go. Just let it go.
And I think I told you this, Ellen, but I called the COVID hotline the other day just because there was so much going on. And I was like, so can you actually give me an answer?
Right.
And I said, I have people telling me this and telling me that. And this lady was so funny because I talked to her for a few minutes. So she kind of had gotten that I might not be the most serious person in the world. And she goes, so here's the thing. She goes, most people just need to put on the mask and use it to remind them to keep their mouths shut. She goes,
I think people mean well. Yeah, I think people mean well.
It was just so funny. She goes, everybody has an opinion. And she goes, and they all get out there and then everybody starts taking it as gospel. And she said, all they need to do is call us. She goes, we're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we'd love to answer questions, but no, everybody wants to tell everybody else what they think. She goes, so tell your friends to put the mask on and use it to shut up.
Because it is, everybody has an opinion about it. And everybody has, like, oh, I heard this and they're saying this. Who are they? Right. They're saying this and they're saying that. And it's just kind of like, and as time goes on, I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't very affected by it. I didn't have anybody that was close and personal to me. I had a couple team members, but they were like older, like team members that used to be on my team or that have been on my team, but they're not engaged and I'm not engaged with them. But now, I mean, I've had several people that are close to me outside of Tupperware and even somebody in Tupperware that's close to me. And I, it's difficult and it's stressful. And I had questions about it. I'm sure I'm probably one of the ones that was asking Jenny, which caused her to call the hotline because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed for these people. And yeah, so yeah, I have a team member right now that is, she hasn't got her test back, but she's probably positive and she's very stressed and upset about it. And it's upsetting me because I'm an empath. If any of you don't realize that about me, I take on the people that I love. I take on their problems as if they're my own. And so, I mean, when Aaron's baby died and Samantha's mom died at the end of that year, you would have thought somebody in my household had died. I was so emotionally drained. And it was just like, these aren't even like, I mean, they're my problems, but not really, and I was just kind of like, yeah. So I take that stuff on. So I get really stressed and stuff. I'm sure I was the one causing Jenny to call the hotline so she could give me the answers and be like, Ellen, put your mask on, shut up.
It's okay, though. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, it's like 10:30. It's 10:30. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to say? Donna, Gina?
I think we're good.
Lydia?
We'll pick this up next week on chapter 19. So,
Okay.
all right, everybody. Thanks for
Great.
joining us.
All right.
Thank you, Melanie. You did a great job.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Can't get out.